Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Labor's housing policy will apply to houses valued at up to $550,000 in Hobart and $400,000 in the rest of the state. Buyers could save just over $200,000 when buying a new home in Hobart and $165,000 for an existing home. The potential saving drops to between $120,000 and $160,000 for homes elsewhere, while the Liberals are pledging $1.5 million for infrastructure in the northeast, including upgrades to roads in Scottsdale and the town's railway station. Meanwhile, tenders are about to open for a separate set of upgrades on the sideling.
$120 million of state and federal investment for that important freight route.
The project will cover 15 kilometres of road. Meanwhile, the Greens are pushing for federal intervention to reduce the threat of feral deer on the Tasmanian environment, claiming the annual cost to taxpayers could be as high as $100 million.
Experts are saying we're going to have 1 million fallow deer in Tasmania, a significant pest running rampant across nearly half our state. At the moment, they're covering around a quarter of our state, but this is only going to get a whole lot worse.
The state government introduced a wild fallow deer management plan earlier this year. And another election battle is brewing, this time in Tasmania's Legislative Council. The seats of Elwick, Huon and McIntyre are in play, and candidates are giving their final pitches before locals head to the polls next weekend.
20-year-old Toby Thorpe grew up in the pristine Huon Valley, and if elected next weekend, he could be the youngest person to ever represent the region in Tasmania's upper house.
It also sends a really strong message that young people can do these things, but also difference of opinion needs to be embraced in the Tasmanian Parliament when we're reviewing legislation. We need different demographics of people. We don't need to elect the same people all the time.
While charity worker Aldo Antoli could become the first Liberal to hold the seat in history, he's hoping to ride the wave of the party's success at last year's state election and capitalise on Bastian Seidel's dramatic departure from the Labor caucus 2 years into his term.
I mean, there are more people in my immediate family than there are on the front bench there in the lower house for Labor. So their success breeds success is really what I'm seeing in the electorate.
Independent Dean Harris is hoping to continue his father's legacy, who spent 18 years in Tasmanian politics.
I've been lucky to be able to follow that and understand a bit of the importance of the Ledge Council, and more so the importance of that independence with the way the vote comes in.
In Elwick, Labor MLC Josh Willey has held the seat for 6 years and is up against one Green and Independent. Education, housing and healthcare are among his key campaign platforms.
I've worked very hard for my constituents, got to know a lot of community organisations, and people come to me for help. So I hope that will stand me in good stead. It's not something I take for granted, and I'll continue working hard.
But some say this time around there's not a strong appetite for the major parties.
Labor's had a lot of problems, and the Liberals have recently had the upheavals with the Premier resigning and being replaced. So it's just like neither major party is going into this election in great shape.
Third seat up for grabs is McIntyre, held by Independent Tanya Rattray since 2004. Some say her biggest opponent this time around is the former Midlands Mayor David Downey, but history shows incumbents poll strongly.
It's a lot of name recognition, and it has very, very strong standing in the northeastern part of McIntyre especially.
The polls open on Saturday. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
A land and air search is underway for a missing person in Berrydale after items of clothing were found near the Glenorchy Bowls Club this morning. Onlookers watched as the Westpac rescue chopper conducted an aerial search while divers scoured the Derwent River near Mona. Police will continue their investigations tomorrow. Police have been called to two serious crashes just kilometres apart within 24 hours. Last night, a woman in her 60s died after a single vehicle smash on Brinktop Road near Penner. Police are continuing to investigate the cause of the incident. Today, a woman was rushed to the Royal Hobart Hospital after a crash with a learner driver on the same road. And gay rights activists say Tasmania still has a long way to go in creating an equal playing field within the community. But today was a reason to celebrate, marking 25 years since the state decriminalised homosexuality.
Ostracised for revealing his true colours, Rodney Croom remembers a different Tasmania to most.
Into bylaw 145 of the City of Hobart, do you understand? Some of the hate and discrimination I experienced in the 80s and 90s I will never forget, till the day I die.
Today, he's joined by the Hobart Out Tennis Club on Heritage Courts, celebrating 25 years since the state repealed its anti-homosexuality law.
I would have found it hard to imagine that we would ever be gathering at Government House.
We've become a much more tolerant and accepting society, and it's very important to have diversity and inclusion.
Coming out when only one other Tasmanian had openly embraced their sexuality, Rodney provided a voice for those drowning in a sea of discrimination.
We took a case to the United Nations Human Rights Committee, and then there was federal intervention and a case before the High Court.
Rodney was one of 130 gay rights activists arrested at Hobart's Salamanca markets, their names added to a registry of known homosexuals.
Nothing impacts me more and impacts our community more than recognising the strength that people showed in being their true selves.
While a higher than average vote towards marriage equality is evidence of the progress Tasmania has made, advocates believe there is still a long road ahead to reducing the stigma and challenges associated with the LGBTQI+ community.
We have yet to ban conversion practices against LGBTIQA+ people. We're yet to ban unnecessary non-consenting medical interventions.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Fans nearly lifted the roof off MyState Bank Arena last night as the Jack Jumpers rewrote the history books, becoming the NBL's first expansion club to win a final in its first season.
We're headed to Game 3 and the Cinderella story has one more chapter to be written.
Players flew out today for the decider against Melbourne United tomorrow night. If they win, they'll face the Sydney Kings for the championship.
Beautiful, thank you very much. Definitely no reflecting yet. We're locked in. We want to bring this thing home. We want to win the whole thing, and we definitely want to play in front of the Jackies one more time, and that's our focus right now.
Full coverage of the game and the wash-up is coming up later in sport. Labor will take advantage of the state government's internal party chaos when Parliament resumes this week after Peter Gutwin's resignation triggered a 4-week break. The state government prorogued Parliament to allow a recount for the seat of Bass and return to majority.
And because they cancelled Parliament, as we return this week, the first day will be spent on ceremonial activities. There will be no question time, no ability to scrutinise the new Premier and his new Cabinet. We'll have to wait until Wednesday.
Parliament is no worse off. We'll sit extra days to make up for the not sitting those 3 days in April. We have plenty of legislation. Everything's on time.
The government says key pieces of legislation will be debated this week, including in forestry, treasury and taxation. The state's largest wedding exposition has returned to Hobart after a 2-year hiatus due to COVID. The boutique event sold more than 400 tickets to participants looking to peruse 30 local stalls and enjoy bridal fashion shows.
So many brides and grooms had to cancel their weddings very last minute. It was just such a crazy season, trying to fit in maybe 3 years worth of weddings.
Event organisers are expecting the state's economy to boom as destination weddings make a return.
It seemed almost unthinkable at the start of the season, but the NBL's new kids on the block, the Jack Jumpers, are 1 win away from a championship series berth. Last night, a deafening Ant Army helped the Jack Jumpers soar past Melbourne United, bringing the coach to the brink of tears. After spending hours nervously strung out, Tasmania's tension finally snapped.
All season long they've been told that they couldn't. They spent the entire season defying the odds.
They got a lot of fight. I don't know what to tell you. They got a lot of fight.
Savage for a soft game one, the Jack Jumpers were ready to flex their muscle and raise their voice.
Range one.
Because this was all or nothing. Every point sent the partial crowd into raptures that laud late bloomer Mikael McIntosh and anoint Josh Majette King of the Air.
Yes!
Hearts sunk when Josh Adams was fouled with the game in the balance, but divine intervention saw the dodgy kick-out overturned. With the Jackies out of jail, the next 90 seconds felt like a lifetime. A pinpoint pass brought United to the verge of victory, but the Jack Jumpers programmed McIntosh to shut them down.
It goes!
An eruption at the final whistle nearly lifted the roof, winners by 7. The first time a Tasmanian team has won a finals game on home soil.
Just a great environment for Tasmania. Proud to be here representing the state. And we're not done.
They flew to Melbourne today to determine who will play in the Championship Series. Jack McVeigh's finding range at the right time after nailing near identical back-to-back three-pointers.
Same spot, same result!
I've been working on it the last couple of weeks, a bit of range, and I was like, what better game to test it out?
The big test now is whether they can do it again without the home crowd's boisterous barracking.
They were a huge boost, but going out there and we feel like we're good enough to win this whole thing, and we can say that, but now it's time to go prove it.
In the NBL 1, the Northwest Thunder's new recruit, Cravon Scott, dropped 22 points in the side's 15-point win over Keilor last night. A packed house in Ulverston saw Jacob Lampkin chip in with 16 points, 8 rebounds and 5 assists, while at Elphin, Keely Frolling and Kelsey Griffin put up 69 points for the Launceston Tornadoes. Between them alone, they equalled Keilor's total, the final score 93-69. The Tawns remain undefeated so far this season. Suspension problems have led to a disaster in qualifying session for Alex Peroni. He started last on the grid in the Euro Formula Open race in Portugal. The Tasmanian quickly recovered, moving up to 6th place within half a lap and holding the position at the checkered flag. Australian Christian Mansell won. They're back on track for race 2 tonight. And Glenorchy Knights have trampled over Olympia 5-0 in the NPL last night. Launceston United enjoyed a similar outing against Kingborough Lions in the Women's Super League today, winning 5-0. South Hobart cleaned up the Clarence Zebras 2-0 after South took on the keeper, spun around and then found the gap to record the sealer. And Taroona has its first win of the year after beating Olympia 3-1 at home.
Good evening everyone. Scattered showers around parts of the state today, with Launceston and Burnie both reaching 19 degrees and 18 in Hobart and Devonport. Across the state, Friendly Beaches and Ooze the top of 20 degrees, 19 on King Island and in Grove, Flinders Island, Low Head and St Helens 18 and 12 in Laowini. Persistent cloud can be seen passing over Tasmania today in a west to northwesterly airstream. And across Australia, a band of high-level cloud is moving across the country from the central west to the central east, with low-level cloud about the Southern Ocean moving over the south of the country. Tomorrow, the high centre moves over southern New South Wales, with troughs forming over the north. Tasmania will be subject to northwesterlies ahead of yet another cold front crossing the Southern Ocean. And with that being said, we expect northwesterly winds tomorrow, 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots about the west and south, with swells in those areas reaching 4 metres. And there is a strong wind warning in place for the central and southwest coasts, Banks Strait and Franklin Sound. A minor flood warning for the South Esk River and a final flood warning for the North Esk River. Hobart and Ooze both 20 degrees tomorrow, partly cloudy and 19 in Dover. Showers in the north with Launceston and Devonport reaching a top of 19, 17 in Scottsdale. 18 in showers in Burnie tomorrow, Strawn and Stanley both showers and 19 degrees. And looking at the east, partly cloudy and 19 in St Helens, Swansea and Ross. On Tuesday, showers about the west, north and central plateau increasing in the evening. Showers extending statewide on Wednesday with a chance of thunderstorms in the west. And on Thursday, showers about the east and northeast and light showers about the west and south, although mainly coastal. Mostly sunny and 24 in Perth tomorrow, partly cloudy in Adelaide, 19 and sunny in Canberra, showers in Cairns and 25 in Darwin. And it's currently mostly cloudy across the state with Hobart 17 degrees, 15 in Launceston and Devonport 16. And Lou, there looks to be some showers ahead.
Had to get the umbrella out. Thanks for that, Chelsea. And that's all your news for this Sunday evening. Thank you for joining us. Kim and the team will be back with you tomorrow. Good night.
Toss sets a big pick for Majet. It finishes off with his struggles, getting himself going. That's enormous.
He's got some game smarts about him. They've only got the one team foul.
For McIntosh. It goes. Does. Majet has McIntosh.